Hi everybody, this is Narges. I hope you enjoy watching parts 1 and 2 of this tutorial, which is about how to build a combined agent-based and system dynamics model in AnyLogic. I'm going to present part 3 of this tutorial, which is the last part. At first, let's have a quick review of what we have learned in parts 1 and 2. In part 1, we have learned how to create a new model, how to create the consumer agent, and finally, how to define supply chain A and B using system dynamics. In part 2, we have learned how to define a consumer behavior using a state chart. And in part 3, we are going to learn how to define statistics for consumer population, how to add a chart to visualize the model output, and finally, how to adjust animation movement in the simulation run window. After defining the consumer behavior using a state chart, it's time to define some statistics for consumer population, which are number of individuals that use product A, number of individuals that use product B. In order to collect statistics for agent, we need to use a function that counts individuals that use product A and B. And we are going to use the following codes. So let's go through each component of the code together. Item represents the agent being currently checked in the iteration. In a state is a function that checks whether the specified state of the state chart is active. Uses A and uses B are the names of the agent-defined states. That's why it needs the agent type prefix consumer. So now let's go to the model together and define the statistics for consumer population. Okay, in order to do that, at first we need to go to the main canvas. And we are going to select the consumer population. And we are going to adjust its properties here. In the statistics section, we're going to click the add button. And we are going to name the statistics as N uses A, which stands for number of individuals that use product A. And we are going to define the type of the statistics as count. Please note that the statistics of type count iterates through a given population to count those that meets the selected condition. And in the condition section, we are going to write item, which represents the agent being currently checked in the iteration. And we are going to write in state function that checks whether the specified state of the state chart is active. And we are going to use the consumer with capital C, consumer with capital C as a prefix because the state chart is the consumer agent behavior and it is created in the consumer agent canvas. So that's why we need to use the consumer with capital C as an agent type name to be able to use the states that we use in the state chart. After that, we are going to call the state name that we use in the consumer behavior, which is uses A. Uses A is the consumer, is one of the states name that we use in the consumer agent tab or canvas. So remember, we define two states called uses A and uses B in the consumer canvas. To refresh our memory, let's go to the consumer tab and see here we have two states called uses A and uses B that we defined in the consumer tab as some of the states here. So in order to use those states in the main canvas, we need to call the consumer agent at first. So now we need to add another statistics to count number of individuals that use product B using the same logic. So again, in the statistics section, we are going to click Add button, and we are going to name it as N uses B, which stands for number of individuals that use product B. And we are going to select the type as count again, and in the condition we are going to use the same logic. Item in state and consumer with capital C dot uses B, which is the name of the state that we define in the consumer canvas. So right now we defined two statistics for the consumer population, name N uses A and N uses B, which stands for number of individuals that use product A and B. So now it's time to add a chart to display the dynamics of the model. Basically, chart helps us to display the dynamics of the model outputs, which in our case are number of individuals that use product A and number of individuals that use product B. N uses A and N uses B. Basically, we are interested to know number of individuals that are using product A and B due to advertising and word of mouth effects. And the other output of the model that we are interested in is that the companies A and B are interested or need to know what is the demand for their product. So what is the demand for product A? What is the number of individuals who want A? What is the number of individuals who want B? Or what is the number of individuals who want anything that is available in the market? So N want A, N want B, N want anything, right? So now let's go to the model and add a chart to the model to visualize that model output. In order to do that, we need to go to the palette, and we need to go to the analysis library, and we need to drag the time stack chart to the main canvas. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, now we are going to adjust its properties in the properties window. In the data section, we will modify some properties of the data, and we will start with company B. At first, we will define number of individuals that use product B. So we are going to select the value option, which is the default option, so leave it as it is. And we are going to set the title as users B, which stands for number of individuals that use product B. And in the value section, we are going to write consumer with small c, consumers, which stands for the agent population name. And we are going to write N uses B, which is the statistic function that we define for this population. N uses B. So again, please do not forget to put the parentheses at the end of the code or function. Please remember the agent population name is the consumers, right? And N uses B is the statistic function that we define for this population here. N uses B is one of the statistics that we define for this population, right? So we are going to call that statistic here. And we are going to set the color as blue to be consistent with the color that we define in the state chart. Now we will use the same logic for defining number of individuals that use product A. So we are going again to select the value for data. We are going to set the title as users A, which stands for number of individuals that use product A. And we are going to use the same logic here for its value. So let's copy that here. But remember to change the N uses B to N uses A. And we are going to change the color to red, again to be consistent with the color that we define in the state chart. Now we will define the demand for product A, product B, and for product A or B, which is the second output of the model that we are interested in. So remember, when we drag the state chart to the canvas, we have only two data. So we can add as many as a statistic or data that we want. So in order to do that, we need to click the add button here, and we are going to name it as demand for B, which stands for number of individuals that want product B. So demand for B. Here we are going to set the value as N want B. Please note that N want B is the variable that we defined for company B's supply chain, so we do not need to add prefix consumer. Remember, here N want B is the variable that we defined for company B's supply chain. So we don't need to add any prefix here that we have done for these two data, because this variable is defined in the main canvas directly. So we are going to change the color to cornflower blue, again to be consistent with the color that we defined in the state chart. Now we will use the same logic for defining demand for product A or B and demand for product A. So let's click the add button here again. Let's call it demand for A or B. And let's set the value as N want any, right? I need to add another statistic here, another data here. Let's call it demand for A. But in my case, we need to set the value as N1 anyway, which is the variable that we defined before for the company's A. Here. N1 A is the variable that we define for companies A to take care of the demand for that product. And we're going to change the color. Okay, I just forgot to change the color here to the gold, and here to, let's say, light brown, just to be consistent with the state chart, the colors that we defined in the state chart. Please remember that we can change the order of the outputs in a way that we want to be presented in the chart. So let's do some modification here and move number of individuals that use product A to the bottom. In order to do that, we need to select the data that we want to move it up or down, and we are going to hit the bottom that shows down. So we are going to move it at the end of the chart. It's totally up to you, and it depends on how you prefer to present your data in the chart. Here, since we started with company B, we are going to present the data in this order. Number of individuals who use product B, number of individuals who want product B, basically demand for B, number of individuals who want anything, demand for A or B, and number of individuals who want A, demand for A, and finally, number of individuals who use product A. So that's the order that we can select for this chart. But again, it's totally up to you. And it depends on how you prefer to present your data in the chart. Now we need to do one more adjustment for the chart. So in the properties window again, we are going to go to the scale section, and we are going to change the vertical scale from the auto option to the fixed option. And we are going to change the to section value from 1 to 1000. Basically, by doing that, we are trying to modify the vertical axis here to be able to follow the number easier. So we can drag this part of the chart to be able to see more numbers here, which helps us to, be able to follow the numbers easier. So it's not a big deal. This only helps us to, be able to follow the numbers easier. So again, in the scale section, we just change the vertical scale from auto to fixed option. Now after that, we change the number here from 1 to 1000. So let's save the model. Okay. Now we are going to learn the last part, which is we are going to learn how to adjust the animation movement in the simulation run window, which helps us to have better understanding of the model logic visually and also make the simulation run window fancier. So in order to do that, we need to drag the oval animation from the origin of the main canvas to the bottom of a chart and right part of the system dynamic. So we are going to drag the animation to the bottom of the chart and the right part of the system dynamics object. And in the advanced section, we are going to change in the showing section, we are going to select the 2D only option, and we are going to check the box that says draw agent with offset to this position. So again, we just drag the oval animation from the origin of the main canvas at the bottom of the chart and right part of the system dynamics objects. And after that, in the advanced section, we just change the option of 2D and 3D to 3D to 2D only. And we just check the box that says draw agent with offset to this position. Now we are going to click anywhere in the main canvas, anywhere. And in the space and network section, we are going to change the layout type from user-defined to random option. Otherwise, we cannot see the movement of the animation in the simulation run window if we do not select that option. So that's the next step. And now, in order to make the model look fancier, we can create a rectangle that represents the animation's movement area. So we need to go to the palette in the presentation library, and we are going to drag a rectangle in the same position of the oval object. After that, we are going to run the model to see the animation's movement area to be able to adjust the rectangle size. So let's save the model, build the model to see if we have any error to take care of that, and let's run the model. Let's make it bigger. Okay, you can see the area of movement of the animation here. So we have the idea of how we can make the rectangle bigger, right? So just close the run window. So let's move it, this consumer population here, and let's make the rectangle bigger to be able to cover the area that the animation is moving. Save the model, build it again, and let's run it again and save. Okay. Basically, we are in a good shape. So, and remember, the reason why we cannot see the animation is that because the animation is behind this rectangle, so we need to take care of it again also. So in order to do that, we need to select, right click on the rectangle, and we need to, in order section, we need to send it to the back. So again, we need to right click on the rectangle, and in the order section, we need to send it to back. Otherwise, we cannot see the movement of the animation as you saw in the run model. So let's save the model, run the model, build the model again, and let's try to run the model and see if we can see the animation's movement here. Right? So okay, you get the idea. By running the model again and again, you can have a good estimation how you can make the rectangle bigger or smaller, something like that. So let's close it. And also we can make, again, the rectangle fancier. For example, we can select the color here. We can set the fill color as, for example, beige, if you will. And also we can select no color for the line. Save the model. And also, we can move the consumer population in a way that its X value be the same as the oval object, just to make it fancier. It's not a big deal. So now if we save the model and build the model again, we can see the movement of animation in the rectangle area. Let's make it bigger. And also we can see the different colors that we define for the animation in the state chart in part 2 of this tutorial. And you can see also how we can follow the different outputs of the model by different colors. What's the number of individuals who are using product B? What's the demand for B, demand for A or B, demand for A, users by different color. And also if you hit the bottom here, gear bottom, you can follow the consumer's behavior in the state chart diagram. So for example, consumer 0 is in this state. Let's see, consumer 2 is also in the same state by seeing that this animation color is red. Let's continue. Again, consumer 2 is the same state, consumer 3, 4. Okay, finally 4 is in state B. We're using B. Okay, now our model is completed and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and thank you for watching.